Dave, welcome to this week's show. Play for both, played for Tranmere Rovers and for Carlisle United. But we'll start off because you originally, as a schoolboy, you were at Tranmere Rovers before you made the jump to Liverpool.
Yeah, from I think I was about 9 maybe when I started. It was just like the centre of excellence back then. We weren't playing games at that point, but it was we trained up at like indoor places like Beechwood. That was there, like the wood church and stuff. You know, your skills and passing the ball. And a lot of that stuff I remember today. Like Martin Filson, Richie Bennett. He's at Everton now, I think, still doing the kids' work at Everton. It just sort of ploughed on and went up to when I was 14, if I remember right. And it was arranged to leave. I loved it at Tranmere. And I must admit, the only thing I remember, one of the reasons I left was, one of the reasons is 2 reasons. One, I could play the likes of United and all the top teams, Everton and all that around the country, if I'd have gone somewhere else at a higher sort of status academy. And the second one was like the facilities. I remember one year where the games were just called off constantly with Tranmere, and I'm being like taken around to these different academies, Man Cities and Liverpool's, and their games are on, and I'm thinking like, what am I doing? Like, I'm missing out on football here because my pitch is waterlogged and they couldn't sort it out. And so that were just 2 reasons really why, and it was arranged to leave because I had a cracking group of mates, and I could see there was a pathway to the first team as well there, if you like. It was more realistic, and so I had to arrange with all these things, but I eventually made the switch to Liverpool when I was like 14. And yeah, sort of, I don't regret any minute of it. It was great. I loved it, and I made my first team debut there, and that's like something that will, you can never sort of take away, if you like. It's a privilege to be able to say I've done that. So yeah, and then eventually went back to Tranmere on loan when I was 20. So yeah.
You mentioned that it was a difficult decision to move. It was a heart-wrenching decision to move from Tranmere to Liverpool, but to join such a big club like Liverpool at a young age, that must have been fantastic, especially as you say with their facilities too.
Yeah, well, the academy was brand new, and that's a massive thing for me to go out and play on the pitches and train on the pitches every single day, and that that was one of the reasons, as I said. But yeah, the pull of it was huge, playing for a club like Liverpool, who obviously are supported as well as Tranmere because I'm local to the Wirral. So yeah, all of that mixed in just made it a brilliant experience. I just felt like a step up. It felt like I was moving forward. It felt like it was the right direction. With all due respect to Tranmere, they just, as I say, the facilities and everything else played a major part. But in terms of coaching, the guys there that took me through to 14 were top draw and stood me in good stead. The likes of Warwick Rimmer gets spoken about quite a lot, and I can't speak highly enough of him. I still speak to him now when I see him walking up and down Hoylake. So now and again. Anyway, yeah. So that was all a good step forward, yeah.
And you progressed through the ranks at Liverpool quite well. You became the reserve team captain at one point, and you managed to get a few first team games as well.
Yeah, broke it. We played Tottenham, down at Tottenham. Played well. Sort of just couldn't make that sort of next step, if you like. I often say now that I would have got, say, like 20 games, I'd have probably found my way at that level. But Liverpool require far more than that. They require world-class players, and I just couldn't make that step up to that level. It might have been a self-belief issue, but there's obviously you look at what they've got now at right back and at left back, it's Trent and Robertson, and I'm not on that sort of scale. So I became aware of that sort of after those games that I'd played. I could play at the level fine, but you need that extra little bit. You've got the likes of Steven Gerrard in the team now, and you think he's just a different level above, and I wasn't at that level, and I sort of accepted that and realised that for me now to go and earn a career, I need to move on and play, because at that time I was in amongst the England setup. I had all my mates were playing. Some of them had played 50, 60, nearly 100 games in the Championship by the time I'd kicked, a proper first team ball. Like, they've been playing for a good few years, and I felt like I was missing out, and I was falling away, because I needed that experience, and most of my peers at the time, Darren Potter, Zach Whitbread, John Welsh, these guys were all on loan at different clubs throughout the Football League. So I knew I needed to move on, and a Tranmere opportunity came up. Brian Little in charge, and I jumped all over it. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that first loan spell at Tranmere, I seem to remember when you signed for the club, John Aldridge was absolutely buzzing on Radio City and said that we got one of the best young right backs in the country.
Nice one to say. My experience at Tranmere at that time wasn't great. I went there with an injury, and I played injured a lot of the time as well. Played through pain. I just tweaked the medial just before we played Wolves reserves, and that's when Brian Little came to watch me play and said, "Yeah, fine, yeah, we'll take him." And I came and I tweaked it, and I couldn't move my knee I was injured for the first couple of weeks, and I'd lost a lot of fitness. And he said, "Well, you need to play. We're paying your wages. You need to play it." And I felt a bit of pressure to play, and I wasn't right. I look back now, I'd have been probably more of an established pro. I wouldn't have played, but I played, and you get through it, and eventually you find a bit of fitness, a bit of form. But it was really tough to start with. I didn't play well. I don't think the fans took too kindly to it either. I mean, I remember getting a bit of stick there, because I wasn't up to it for the first sort of 10 games that I'd played. Plus the team weren't doing that well. We ended up staying up by the skin of our teeth that year. But if I look back, it was an amazing sort of learning curve for me, because it was putting hairs on my chin and, a shell on my back, being able to deal with the rigmarole of football. I mean, I was playing with Mike Jackson, like Jack obviously managed there, and I'm coming out to like make an angle for him to receive the ball to feet, and Jacko just gets it out of his feet and shells it, and I'm thinking, right, here we go, this is proper for like football, you know what I mean? Not non-league, lower league football. So yeah, it was a big learning curve for me.
You mentioned there that you got a little bit of a raucous atmosphere from some of the fans. As a young pro, how did you take that on board?
It was tough. I found it really tough. The first time I'd had proper abuse. I mean, I remember walking off at Burnley when we got beaten in the FA Cup, and there was a bit of abuse from the Liverpool fans, but it was never really aimed at myself, and it was always the older pros and like the sort of foreign boys. But when I was at Tranmere, I must admit, it was a bit of a baptism of fire in terms of that. Because you play at the smaller grounds, and you can hear individual shouts, and playing at Prenton Park up and down the line, especially as a fullback, you hear shouts. I mean, a lot of it was really encouraging. I mean, for every 100 positive shouts, you might hear one negative one, but you remember that one. And as I say, but it's one of them. You need to get used to it and move on, or sink or swim. And you got to fight through it. And I've had it. It's not the only time I've had it in my career. I've had it other times as well. But yeah, it was. It's hard. It's tough to deal with, and I'm sure every single pro has been through it.
After that loan spell, you were released by Liverpool. How much a blow was that to you? Because obviously you were working under Rafa Benitez and some of the best players in the world, like Steven Gerrard. So to be told that you were being released, what was that like?
Yeah.
Because that was always the first time in your career that you'd been released.
I'd accepted it. I'd left with a year left on my contract. It was me pushing it. They were happy for me to just see it out, and I'm like, well, I'll end up rotting in the reserves here. I knew I would. And so it was me sort of pushing it to go and play. And so in terms of that, I knew then if I don't move now, then I'm not going to make a career in the game here, because I'll end up just going bang, 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 down and down. And there was an offer from Tranmere at the time, and to sign me, and like a couple of year deal, whatever it was. And I turned it down. I felt like I needed a new start. I felt like I needed to move away from the area, if you like, to just to find my feet somewhere else. And Carlisle came up, and they were the team on the up, coming from a couple of promotions, and there was a feel good factor there, and I liked it. I liked Paul Simpson, what he was doing there, and that's why I decided to go up there, and they were really keen as well. So it could have gone one or two ways there, but I decided to go to Carlisle, and I don't regret that either, because that was brilliant, and I loved it. And again, another massive learning curve with abuse from the fans to start with, when we settling in, and then I end up getting a great relationship with them and being a sort of cult hero, if you like, up there. They saw me as a sort of cult figure with the way I played and stuff. So and that was nice. Yeah.
Yeah, great move to Carlisle too. First season a bit rocky through injuries.
Yeah, again, it was groins are going and stuff like that, which eventually caught up with me, and I ended up getting an operation, and it was the same problem. But yeah, injuries, form, moving away from home for the first time, stuff like this took its toll. Up and down. We had a decent season that year, if I remember rightly. We just finished outside the playoffs, but it was the few years following that I really sort of found my feet there, and we should have gone up to the championship and missed out. You know, it's one of the big regrets that I have in my career, is that missing out on promotion with Carlisle, getting beat to Leeds in the playoff. But we should have gone up automatically without being in the playoffs anyway. So yeah, it was a great time. I had great friends, and I mean we had a great side as well. The likes of Danny Graham, Kieran Westwood. I mean, Richie Keogh came later on, and it was just, we had a top team. So it was really enjoyable to play in that team. Joe Garner, another one. Yeah.
And Carlisle now back again in the same league as Tranmere Rovers, in good position this season to push for promotion.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a good few games in hand. I mean, it doesn't mean anything for Carlisle, but you've got to win them all. And it looks to me Tranmere bang in form as well. You know, so it's going to be a good tight game, and there's a few teams up there. But I mean, I'd love to see both teams get up back in the leagues where they belong. You know, League One, Championship. And they look like Carlisle at the moment have got the strongest chance they've had for years to get up again. They look like they've got the strongest team that they've had for a long time, and Tranmere too as well. They've got a strong side. They've got the experience, and they're in a great position now to springboard them up. And I'd love to see both go up, I must admit, and that's not a cliche thing to say. I'd love to see both go up. It'd be great automatic. I mean, but we'll wait and see. As I say, it should be a good game. Yeah, feisty.
Your time at Carlisle, you played a lot of games for Carlisle. You then have a spell at Shrewsbury Town before returning to Tranmere Rovers in 2011 for a permanent spell.
Yeah, that was after release from Shrewsbury, and again, I was at the point in my career where, again, injuries were struggling. I had a hip arthroscopy, and I kept breaking down, muscles kept going, and I was thinking, wow, this could be it here, like. And I rang Les Parry, said, can I come and train with you, like, just to stay fit, pre-season. He said, yeah, just so you know, there's nothing here. And I went and trained, and as the time carried on, I was staying fit and impressing, and he came to me and he said, well, I've got a deal for you here. It said it's a rubbish deal, but it's all I had on the table. And I said, I'll sign it. I want to play. And I was desperate to play, obviously desperate for Tranmere as well. I was made up. It would be with Tranmere. It meant I didn't have to move, and I could represent Tranmere again. So, and again, it started off really, really well. I remember I played about 20 odd games that year, and then injury hit again, and it was just it was really tough time again. So I mean, my memories of Tranmere aren't that great, but mostly because I suffered injuries and stuff, and so I didn't play the second half of that year. But for the first half, the first 20 odd games, I thoroughly enjoyed, and it was great, and we were playing decent football and winning games. But yeah, it ended up being quite a tough time. Ronnie Moore came in after Les was sacked because the team weren't doing so well, and I remember him saying at the end of the season, those lads are out of contract, come and see me, you know, you are. And I didn't even go and see him. I didn't need to hear him say that you're not wanted here. So I needed to move on. You know what I mean? I just knew. So yeah.
You signed, as you say, for Les Parry, physio turned manager, something that's only happened once before with success, one of our other former players. What was it like to play for Les Parry? Because we've heard through quite a few ex-Tranmere players who says Les is a physio. His pre-seasons were, I don't want to say horrific, but they were difficult.
Yeah, horrific probably sums it up. Yeah, they were the toughest pre-seasons I've ever done. Playing for Les, there was more. There was a lot of personal attachment there for me as well, because I'd known Les like for years before it as well, being friends with his lad. So there was a personal attachment there that I really wanted to do well for him, not just for the club. And I felt it personally when he was sacked, and I really felt gutted. But you know, he took the job on because he knew sort of like he might have been leaving at some point anyway and moving on and whatever. Why not give it a shot? And he was happy to at that point in his life. So, but I felt it personally when he was sacked and playing for him. I wanted to do well for him. Naturally you want to do well, but there was, as I say, there was more of a personal thing in there with me. But yeah, I enjoyed that first part of the season. It was just a shame to see the way it started petering out, and we started losing form and losing games and stuff, and we were up and down that year. So yeah, when you've got a physio tag, I think people sometimes jump to conclusions when, oh, he's a physio, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, he's been in the game for about 25 years. Do you know what I mean? He knows his stuff. He knows what he's looking at. He's got a good job at Man United now because he knows exactly what he's looking at. And this is it. I mean, part of the problem in football is convincing your players to buy into the way you want to play and stuff like that. And maybe he just wasn't able to do that because he had that physio tag, and the lads were a bit, I don't know, but yeah, he knows his stuff. That much is clear.
And you've said the second half of that season was hampered by injuries. Across your career, and we haven't even got to Inverness yet, but across your career, how much have injuries set you back?
I missed about 2 or 3 years right in the peak of my career, I thought. I mean, I got at Carlisle when I actually had the operation. There was a few bigger teams starting to take note. The likes of I remember I was speaking to Norwich at one point, and Huddersfield, and a couple of others where there were nearly contracts happening there, and then the injury hit, and from then it just felt like I took 3 years maybe to catch up again. I lost probably half a yard of pace that I didn't have to lose, and then ended up going up to Inverness, and I ended up stringing 40 odd games together that season in Inverness. And the only reason I can think of is because in Scotland you have your international breaks at the start of the year. So the first 3 months you have an international break at the end of every month. So you'll do your first, say, 4 games, and then you've got a break to recover, and then you have another 4, and you've got to get a break. Whereas down in the leagues, you Saturday, Tuesday, and it's relentless. And I don't think my body was able to just recover. So then once I got that recovery and I strung me 40 games in, my body was then hardened to the seasons again. I was able to get through it. So I think that the move to Scotland was just absolutely perfect. So yeah, it just worked out well in the end, and I ended up having sort of an injury-free rest of my career, if you like.
A lot of people have criticised the Scottish football system and the quality comparing to England. What was the jump like going from League One to the Scottish Prem?
I thought it was a big jump. There was the difference between the teams in the Scottish Prem is huge, even though you've got your 12 teams in there. Obviously, the top and your Celtics and Rangers compared to your bottoms is a massive, massive difference. And each game had its own sort of tactical sort of way of approaching it and preparing for it. So each game was so different in its own way. Whereas I found down in League 1 and 2, it was like your rigmarole of week after week of pretty similar teams. I mean, now and again, you have the big teams come down, like your Notts Forests and stuff like that, and Sheffield Wednesdays. But more often than not, it was just big, strong boys, and it was everybody played the same way. I mean, it's probably changed now. It's probably changed massively now. But I found in Scotland it was more tactical. It suited me more. There was more of a thinking game. It was a completely different game, and I also felt like I could compete for things in terms of trophies, trying to get into Europe. Obviously, we won the Scottish Cup up there. We got into the League Cup final up there, where you're playing in front of 60,000 people in finals and all stuff like that. Even the papers up there treated it like the papers down here treat the English Premiership. So it was a big thing to be playing up there for me. You're on Sky and stuff. I felt more like a footballer. I felt like this is what I dreamed about. Big games, cup finals, as I say. So it was more about that as well than anything else. And I say now, like, lads, ask me now, and I couldn't recommend going to Scotland highly enough, even if you use it as a springboard, because a lot of lads do. They'll go up and you get a lot of exposure up there, and then you can springboard back down south if you want. But I enjoyed it that much. I never wanted to move back down south again once I was up there.
So is it fair to say that was the best, your most probably favourite part of your career?
Yes, it was, yeah. That and a couple of years of Carlisle at the start, yeah. They were my 2 favourite bits, without a shadow of a doubt, most successful. I mean, yeah, I played the best football I'd played up in Inverness. We had such a strong side, and we were successful for so many years as well. And we achieved, like, overachieved, if you like, getting into Europe, as I say, and winning the Scottish Cup, which is, people who don't know, it's probably likened to, I don't know, maybe Tranmere winning the League Cup or something, or, you know, it's unheard of. It'd be fair to say that was my most enjoyable time. I bought into the lifestyle up there, the salmon fishing, the hiking, and all the rest of it. So we've had my 2 kids up there. They're both Scottish. So yeah, we absolutely, we loved it. Yeah.
You left Inverness to come back. We'll glaze over the fact that you signed for Wrexham. We'll ignore that. You went to Warrington, and you're now at Marine. Now,
Yeah.
You go to Marine, you expect to play some normal games. Now, I've been there with Camelids a couple of times. Yeah. We've seen some of the old Tranmere players, the young players play there. And then Gareth Bale turns up. Come on, that's what a fixture that was.
Crazy, wasn't it? Oh man, like, when, as you say, when you first joined, it's like, you know, you're preparing to play these teams, or, you know, you're right down in the eighth tier, I think it is, isn't it? And it's more of a mental grind to get yourself going for them, and then, you know, these lockdowns happen, so we need to win this FA Cup game so we can play next week and we can keep on training. It was sort of an impetus to keep going, you know. And then we play the games, and we need to win again, so because our league's locked down, so we must win, guys, so we can carry on training again. Because I mean, I think we beat Chester. We had like 3 weeks or something like that to prepare for Havant. Within that time, we didn't play a league game, so we had to like rope a few people in to play against them in friendlies, and keep ourselves fit and motivated in that time. So like, it was just a crazy sort of time. We never at all dreamed we'd get to the 3rd round and play Tottenham at home. Never in a million years did we dream that. People have asked me since, said like, "Oh, must have just felt it was meant to be," and it wasn't to me. It was sort of game by game to me. It was never a thing now I felt like, yeah, this is it, and we're going. It was just, well, we played Colchester, and I fancied us big time against Colchester for some reason. I don't know why. The way they played suited us. It was fine. We could deal with it and hit them on a counter, I thought. No problem at all. Having some Waterlooville, I was more worried playing against them than a league team in Colchester, just because it was more of a fight. They were big boys. They were like, you know, all of them 6 foot plus, and I thought that this is just going to be a fight and it can go either way. But we came through that one as well. And so it was a case of, well, we either get another draw sort of like the Havant or Waterloovilles of this world who were beatable, or we get a dream sort of, you know, Liverpool, Everton, Tottenham, Man United, one of them, who we're never going to beat, but it'll be amazing for the club and raise money and stuff like that. So we got the latter, and we just couldn't believe it. As you say, yeah, Gareth Bale trotting on the pitch, jogging around and attempting to, yeah, I think he was about 10% of his overall maximum capacity, I think, when he came on. But no, it was nice. It was nice. I mean, people ask me about the game. Did you enjoy the game? Well, no, not really, no, because we got beat 5-0 and we got the run around and we got shown this is how far away we are from at that elite level. And I don't like that. I don't like the feeling of it. I don't like getting beat. So, but I enjoyed the build-up. I enjoyed everything that's come after it, and speaking to people and connecting with people, and people wanting to ask about my career or whatever else. It's opened up a few doors that way. So it's everything else. I've loved it. Yeah.
And the financial aspects, of course, for Marine have been astronomical, especially in this climate.
Amazing. I mean, that ticket sales was, I think it was something like £300,000 just through the virtual tickets. I mean, for a club like Marine, I don't think you've ever seen that sort of money before. And it made up for the lack of crowd and everything else. And I thought, you know, what the Tottenham fans done was brilliant, buying all the virtual tickets, and that's brilliant. But yeah, it's going to stand the club now, good stead for the next, if you do it right, you invest right, the next 10, 15 years, and you can climb the leagues, and you just need to do it right and invest in the right places and in the right people and things like that. But it's just, in this climate, I just feel privileged to be part of it. I was wrestling with possibly finishing, and then Neil Young got in touch and asked me to come and play for him, and he's a great guy, and like he sort of convinced me with the way he was, and it was the best decision I ever made to carry on playing. It really was, and it's just I'm just so glad that I did.
And this season, sadly, over now. Have you got plans to play on next season?
Yes, as it stands, if I'm wanted. This is it. You've got to, I mean, I'll be 36 in March. Keep myself fit. I'm slim and everything else. So yeah, if I wanted to play on, then I'll play on. There's no doubt about that. But I mean, if I'm not wanting to play on, then I'm happy to, be there around as coach or whatever else. But yeah, I'm definitely wanting to play on. Play on as long as I can, definitely.
And are there any plans in place for the end of your career? Are you looking to get into management or coaching?
Well, yeah, I mean, you say the end of it. I come out of professional football when I was 33. That was like the end of the season at Wrexham there. So I didn't get a full-time club after that. So I've been making the transition slowly, if you like, in terms of coming away from, it's like weaning yourself off a drug, professional football. And that's what I've been trying to do these last few years. And, I've had my badges. They were all sold and they were all done when I was 32, A license, and studying degrees, psychology, and doing all the other things as well. But yeah, management would be great. I want to coach, want to manage. So yeah, but there's a few different other bits and bobs that I'm trying to get involved in as well. So it's not an easy process to go through, and there's a lot of lads. I understand now why they struggle so much with the finance, with the marriages, whatever it is, because it's such a big change. Coming out of professional football and finding your feet in another line of work. So yeah, it's an ongoing process, but that's eventually what I'd like to do. Yeah.
So definitely a football future for yourself. Dave, thank you very much. Really appreciate you joining us today. It's been great.
No worries. Yeah, thanks for your time.